Welcome everybody to the Layer5 community meeting. Today is 20th of August and we have a lot of newcomers joining in this week. So before we get on with the meeting agenda, if you are new here, please introduce yourself on the call. So that the community can get to know you and you can also get to know the community better. So Aman, this is your first time on this call, right? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. Am I audible?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So myself, Aman Dwivedi. I am an undergrad in IIT ISM Dhanbad, India. I was also a Google Summer of Code student in Fossology, and I have also contributed to Thanos. So this term, I'm looking forward to contribute to Layer5 and a Meshri project. And I have also applied for the project Playground, Service Mesh Playground project under the Lfx mentorship fall term. So yeah, I'm looking forward to explore and learn from you all and contribute to the code base.
Nice. Thank you, Aman. So we will talk about the Lfx internships today. So we have a couple of open spots in Lfx. So if you are looking to do that, stay tuned to today's meeting as Lee will talk about them. Zain, you are also new to this call, I guess. Would you like to introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Zainuddin Abdul Muiz. I'm a second year electronics student from Kerala. Yeah, this is my first 2 days in the community. I joined here 3 days back, and it's been going good.
Awesome. I'm also from Kerala. So this is the first time I'm seeing someone from Kerala in this community. That's pretty good. Welcome, Sain. Thank you for introducing and also happy Onam. Awesome. Anyone else who is new on this call would like to introduce themselves? The names I'm seeing are pretty old folks. All right. I don't think anyone else is left to introduce. So if you are new, please, you can introduce yourself in the chat as we start the meeting today. All right. So a couple of announcements. So yesterday we just released a Cncf webinar. So the first Cncf webinar as Meshri as a Cncf project. So the webinar is on Meshri, the service mesh manager. So it gives an introduction to the project and the community. So you can check that out on YouTube. It's available on demand, and we will have a couple of other webinars that are coming. So this is also an area where you can contribute. So if you have something to discuss, we have enough slots available with CNCF to conduct webinars. So if you are interested, please signal that as well. We have a lot of opportunities there as well. And another open source event that was happening was in Mexico. So in Mexico, there was an open source contributor summit, CCOSS. So Jesus Alonso and Rodolfo has been representing Meshri and the Layer5 community there. So Jesus has delivered a session on contributing to Meshri. So this session is available on YouTube. So you can check that out as well. And we'll be also conducting a Meshri workshop there. So is anyone representing? I don't think they are on the call, but we are having a session on a Meshery workshop in the event as well. So you can also check that out. The link is in the chat. I will also share the YouTube link to the Open Source Contributor Summit event. Lee, would you like to talk about the next announcement?
Yeah, is Meshmate Anita on the call? She was just here in chat. Is she here?
Oh, I think she just left.
Oh, okay. Oh, we just okay. Well, we just missed her. We'll have to show her the meeting minutes. But for those of you who've been here for some time, you've interacted with Anita iHuman. And she just last week was starting as a developer advocate to focus on Kyverno at Nirmata. So also for those of you who've been here for some time, you might be familiar with Kyverno. We had, well, Nirmata's founder, a long-standing, an ex-colleague of mine come and present. And so the two communities have overlapped some. And so she's gonna go help try to teach people about Kyverno, which is fantastic. So congrats to Anita. She will also continue to be active here. So she's been in that role for about a week, and you still see her doing quite a bit. So she continues to earn her Meshmate title. So that's so amazing. So I like harder to think of like we couldn't have finagled that outcome any better. Like we couldn't have been a better thing. So really cool. Really cool. I wish she was here. Dang it. Oh, she is.
Anita just joined. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Anita's used to us talking.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much.
That's it. Good. Okay. Now I can actually say mean things, because since Anita's here now it's okay to say. I just don't have anything to say anything bad. I mean. Anita, super pumped for you. Just what an exciting. How have you been drinking from the fire hose, so to speak, or have you been? It looked like you went off immediately. Put your hands on some Kubernetes. Maybe put your hands on getting like running Meshery. You've been playing around with Kyverno, I assume at this point. Like, you know, what's it been like? What have you been up to?
Well, I'm currently taking a Kubernetes course because I have to catch up on what Kubernetes is all about, because companies Kubernetes centered. Yeah, so I have to take a course to refresh my memory or to catch up. That's what I've been doing for a week now.
Yeah. Where are you running Kubernetes? On your laptop?
I had to install Docker. Yes. So that's how I was able to actually set up Meshery, because I had to upgrade my memory, my system RAM, because it couldn't take that. So I had to upgrade, and I was able to install Meshery too, because I've not been able to do that due to the system capabilities and all.
Yeah.
But I had to do it now.
You're getting upgrades all around. Nice. Okay, fair enough. So then I end up using Docker Desktop a fair bit to run Kubernetes and to run Meshery as well. So we're in the same boat now. Okay.
So I think I can relate to most of the things being discussed here now.
Oh man, that's cool. Congrats.
Thank you.
Awesome. Congrats, Anita, again. Thank you, Lee. So let's move on to the topics for today. So Natish is outside and he's on his phone, so he won't be able to present today. So we'll hopefully get that done next week. Josh, would you like to talk about the leaderboard first? Isn't Josh on the call?
Oh. No. He's not.
Okay. Right. So, Meghna, I guess it's over to you to start things off.
Yeah, sure. It's not a big of a topic. Actually, I just had a suggestion for the menu bar we have, the side menu. So right now we only show the down arrow, like the drop down arrow, basically only when we hover on it. I just had a doubt if it was intentional or if there's a particular reason for that. And I started talking with Aditya Chatterjee. So he just mentioned to add it over here. So I was just thinking it'll be more user friendly if we have an arrow, like they'll know if there are subfolders or not, and it'll even clear out the like the we were thinking of like needing a division between the subcategories and the topic, right? Like intonation is just not enough. So I was thinking maybe adding something like the Google Drive or Mail has. Give me a second. I can like show it if you want what I'm talking about.
That'd be
Is it
great.
okay? Like,
Yeah,
yeah, sure.
that'd be great.
I'll just share my screen. Yeah, so I was talking about something like this. So for a small arrow that tells us that there is a subdivision there. So something like that. So I just wanted to know what you all think about it.
And Megan, for my part, I mean, everybody else should be chiming in, but for my part, can you show the portion of the UI that you're thinking of?
The main sidebar that we have, like in the
She's talking about the dashboard on Meshery,
dashboard
where
yes.
we added the accordion. So she's talking about that.
I think it would be better if someone has Meshery up and running so that we can visualize it. Yeah.
Yes. Good. So I'm talking about the left side, but yeah.
Hey, while we're looking at this, just some interesting observations. I wish Avi was here, but there's a couple of things that need to be attended to. So I'll say that I am running Safari here. So maybe that makes a difference, maybe it doesn't. But one thing, like right here, this is obnoxiously jilted, like it's just slightly off. And that's a side note to what Megan is talking about. But if someone's looking to get in and fix something, it would be really nice if this just aligned over the top of, these two are aligned, because they're not. But for what Megan is referring, there's one other thing before we talk about what Megan is saying, which is as a user right now, as a user goes to hover, good. So we're seeing a light change in background on the menu. That's nice. I can see that. One, I can see that this is colored, and that means it's active. So that's gives me an indicator as to where I am in Meshery. Nice. So I go to hover and I get the background. I get a pointer. Good. Go here. I get a slight change in background and a pointer. Here though, so I guess I can't click this.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. There is a slight UI fix needed there too. There is no hover for the configuration.
Actually, I don't think we can click configuration, can we?
It expands the.
Yeah, so we don't go anywhere. That's why it's intentional that there's no hover on it.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
But two things, but just because it's intentional doesn't mean it's right. Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, one is like, if it's clickable, we should probably use the pointer, like the hand, so that people have that indicator. Because what it looks like is like, I guess I can't click this. That's not, you do get, this is the only visual indicator that you get, which is that's actually new. The thing is like, we should show the background. Like if what we're using the background to do is to indicate that you can click on something, it's like, well, one, that's just inconsistent. I mean, look at lifecycle. So lifecycle, it shows a background, but so like consistency is like number one at the very top of what makes something quality. If it's inconsistent, it is definitely not high quality. Something can be fairly terrible as long as it's consistent. It's still quality. It's still terrible quality. It's still of quality. It's just not very good. Anyway, point is, got to be consistent. And so, yeah, if we would reinstate the background, that'd be good. And then for what Megan is saying, Megan, yeah, you were saying, hey, should we show a small chevron that's turned on its side to indicate where you are? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Oh, no. Like, for example, for the life cycle, when we hover on it, we get a drop down arrow, right? So we're only showing it when we hover on it. I was just asking, how about we always have it for something that has more children to it? So that way. So I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
Now we're actually working on removing the arrow altogether and then extending it when it hovers on top of life cycle. So that's what Hasna has been doing, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, even in that case, I think it would be better if we show that chevron as Megan is suggesting, because if I use it, if he doesn't hover over it, then he wouldn't know that it's actually expandable. So in that case, he wouldn't even hover over it.
Right, makes sense.
And yeah, so we can add something like the one that I showed a little earlier. So it will be on the left side, a small arrow indicating that there's more to that. So, or we can just leave on the one we are actually using. So I was just wanted to.
Yeah, one thing that, yeah, there's probably a couple of things that will work. One thing that, if you all would consider at the same time is when this is expanded, there's an indication by way of indentation. It's a slight indentation from where this starts to where this starts. That's good. Like these are sub menu items, but that's the only indication that a user gets that this is a sub menu item. And it's really, it's like, to the extent that no one notices that same distance is off down here and no one's done anything about it, and I've actually pointed it out, is that then people definitely don't get the indication that, oh, this is a submenu. So if you would, at the same time, give consideration to a slight discoloration for the, for like submenu items, if they all had a lighter background or a darker background or something, so that it shows that they're a collection and that there's a difference between the top level menu and the, I think that would give that consideration as you're thinking about the rest. Other comments? Like, it sounded like there were a couple of plus ones to what Megan was suggesting, which I would throw a plus one behind as well. I think that it could be debatable that whether or not you would persistently show the presence of this caret or not, if other things were taken care of. If the background was lighter down here for all of these, you were showing that there was a collection. It's like, well, look, if that visual indication is readily apparent enough, then you may not need, then that may fix or alleviate and potentially eliminate the need to leave this persistent. Because it would be, you would already know, like, oh, this is an accordion. It has been expanded. People have been using software like this long enough that they might assume they could, collapse and expand an accordion. And when they hovered and they saw this indicator pop up, like that might be enough. But right now, since there is no visual indication that there is an accordion or I can see where Meghna's thing is coming from. So give thought to that. Like when you change one thing, it affects the need for the next. And so, yeah. So Meghna, it sounds like you're in good hands with Nitish and Aditya and others.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it about that topic.
It's amazing how much we can talk about a chevron. Awesome. By the way, just for everyone else on the call, just in case, what Meghna just did was real. It wasn't staged. She had an idea. She brought it up. We chatted through it. Generally, and so I guess what I was going to point out is that's fantastic. Please bring your thoughts. And most everyone does, but know that even if the thought ultimately ended up being rejected, that it's so much better that you bring the thought than not. And so in this case, I think it's being accepted. And Meghna did it in front of 30 something people too. Yeah. I would take some confidence to do that. It's good.
Thank you, Meghna. Thank you, Lee. So I guess Abhi is also not on the call today. So Lee, would you talk about the Lfx mentorships?
Yeah, actually, before we do, there's Abhi Kumar in the community had opened up.
Excuse me.
Yes, yes.
Hello. So actually, we were talking about the issue over in one of the issues, and the issue was related to whenever some component is rendered before the component fetches data from the internet, it's been showing some kind of empty spaces, right? Because it's been rendering null before the data has been fetched. So I have noticed that in a lot of places for one of these things, like Aditya and we were discussing that, and we have created issue to fix it in one place, but I think that needs to be addressed in a lot of places. Yesterday we were working on an issue there was this remote provided tab in the user preferences page, and the remote provided tab should be visible only when the user is using the remote provider, right? So to verify whether the user is using remote provider or not, we need to fetch some kind of data, right? So before the data is fetched, the for just some a seconds or two, the tab is already there, and when the code realizes that the user is using local provider, then that tab gets removed. So I guess before fetching the data, we need to do one thing. We should use some kind of placeholder over here, some kind of loader and all, and that's been issue in a lot of places. I think that PR has not been merged yet, so it won't be visible in this thing, in this master branch. But the issue is if you go to the remote provider tab from general, first of all, please open general, whoever screen it's in. General, in the user preference tab only. In the user preference page itself, yes. Now if you open remote provider, there was this split second or something, in case of Abhiji's screen, it was a little bit more time, but for that time nothing has been rendered on the screen, and once the data is fetched, then re-rendering takes place and this thing pops up. So before that there's nothing, so I think there should be some kind of loader or some kind of placeholder over there. But for this we have opened one issue, but that would be fixing only this thing, but there are a lot of places where this thing is happening, so I think we should be taking care of the placeholders and the loaders.
Quick question, where other places is this happening? Because I know in
Other
particular,
places
Yeah, in particular, this is happening because the remote provider preferences are not a part of Mesh UI, and we are importing it as a different
Actually, the
differentiating
other,
file itself.
yes. The other place which I was talking about was right there in the user preference tab. One thing which I was thinking was like if it's not been taken care of in those two places, it might not have been taken care in other places also. So the two places were in the user preference page itself. One was the thing which I just talked about, and one was thing like we just created this remote provider tab to be visible only in case the user is using remote provider. So like for that we need to fetch data, what kind of provider the user is using, and if the provider is local, then re-rendering takes place and the remote provider is removed from the tab, right? So that's kind of like a split second where we can see the remote provider tab was there, but it just gets removed suddenly.
Yeah,
So instead of
that
doing
makes
that, we can
sense.
just fetch the data.
Got you. That fix makes sense. I was just thinking where other places where it was happening. So that's right.
Okay, so basically I thought like there was no component for the like a placeholder or something, so I think that thing was not taken care of. We can use like a reusable component if you have like embedded some code for like particular components, right? So we can use one like general component for the placeholder or something like for these things, and we can use that everywhere. Because in the code it was not there, general component for placeholders.
Okay. Makes sense what you say. We can go with it. Basically, assume that remote provider is off before fetching the data. That's what you say in a nutshell, right? Or did I just oversimplify it?
No, you were right. Like in case when we have not fetched some data, remote provider tab is always there. Once we have fetched the data, we know that user is using local provider. Then like in a split second, that remote provider gets like gets removed from that tabs and all. So yes.
Yeah, makes sense. Good enough for me.
All right. Anyone else have a comment on Yash's suggestion? Cool. Well, I do. So I have a couple of comments. Actually, I have a comment about Mr. Agarwal himself. So Yash has been in the community for a little while. Just before the community call, he was, well, invited to have his GitHub user join the, well, probably a couple of the GitHub orgs that the Layer5 community stewards, which is, and I think he politely accepted, which is really nice. And that's in part like our way of saying thanks, trying to recognize the contributions that Yash has been making, and is a sign that, that we consider that, at least of what we know of Yash today, that he seems to be perpetuating the culture that's here of learning, of trying to do good things, trying to treat others well, paying it forward. And so anyway, congrats Yash on being invited. And then, thanks for doing just what you just did, making another suggestion. Like, I know you were recently working in this area. So, and that's in part how you came to the suggestion, which is great. So
Thanks.
congrats.
Actually, that was because of Abhijit, that Banerjee. Just a second. Sorry.
And so anyway, while Yash is coming back, a couple of quick things. So in general, those what might seem like a small, like on my screen, it's like a really quick blip. You can see the difference between switching from general to performance. There's no blip. I can't think of a better adjective at the moment, but there's no, but when you go to remote provider, it's really quick, but you see it a flash for a second. There's nothing here. Now, that data fetching could take more than a blip, right? And so as a standard, as part of Meshri's UI architecture and its convention of user experience, like the user experience paradigms that it would use. Yeah, hey, if you're making a remote call.
So sorry everyone, that was my mom. She waits for no one, right? So basically, oh sorry, I disturbed some conversation. You were saying something, Lee, right?
Yeah, no, yeah, sorry. I was going to try to say something about mothers, but so yeah. Now I totally lost my train. So good. So anyway, Yash is pointing out that well, some of the things that I was highlighting before about consistency. So if you're going to have a spinner in one place, a visual indicator that that there's activity happening, but the user needs to wait. Good. That's a highly appropriate thing to do. If you're having to wait on something, it's also an indication to the rest of us that, what are we doing that's making the user wait? Maybe we shouldn't be doing that. If we can try to, there's various tactics to kind of avoid that sort of a thing. But if for nothing else, and it's like universally true, yes, if they're going to have to wait for more than a second or at all, there should be a spinner there. They don't necessarily, it can be so fast that they don't even know that there was a spinner. That's fine. But anyway, whether it's a spinner or whatever visual indicator is being used, it should be consistent, and it should be, and there may be multiple types of visual indicators that indicate like system activity. So both as a way of wrapping up what Yash was saying and as a way of kind of transitioning to some things that Abhi Kumar was working on is
actually I had a point to add on like what you said about why the thing was happening, like why there was this split second of thing, like when user had to wait, right? So in that case, like in the user preferences page, like if you will please open that user preference page. In this remote provider, what is happening right now is that this thing, the data which is being used here is getting fetched for every re-render, and re-rendering is happening like whenever we are switching tabs. So I don't think that we need to re-render the data every time we switch the tab, right? So that thing needs to be fixed. And like we were talking about, like me, Nitish and Aditya were talking about, like we should use Redux over here. So if we don't use Redux, we should like think of some other solution temporarily, like because this thing is like making some unnecessary like network calls, right? And this thing user just switches between tabs a lot of times. So I don't think that makes sense to re-render the data every time for this thing.
Yeah, totally. It doesn't. As a matter of fact, there's a proposal for the use for how to improve how state is managed in the Meshri UI's architecture. There's a link to that proposal in the Zoom chat now. I encourage everyone to go take a look. Like that, that'll have a sweeping effect to how it is that Meshri UI's run. Yeah, I was just going to say that if there's a visual indicator, there can be different styles. So one of those styles being, if you go retrieving results, potentially, you'll notice there's a small visual horizontal visual indicator right on the lower right-hand side. So if I go retrieve more results, it's performing an operation, the system is. And that placement is fine, it's good, it's fine, right? But the placement of a visual indicator in this particular instance, maybe that would work here down here, or maybe the user would get, wouldn't. Anyway, something to think about. Like, should there be an indicator in the modal? Moreover, like, shouldn't we just be showing the fact that there is going to be something here as opposed to nothing? Because if this is being shown, that means that the user is using a remote provider. And if they're using a remote provider, there should be something in here. And so it will make it less jarring if we don't have a zero height, tab or area. Something else to give consideration to, then you're like, well, how tall should it be? Well, I don't know, as tall as the one that they were coming from, maybe. So you don't know what height it's going to be, but you could start there. All right, so moving on, speaking of Mesh3's UI, there's some new componentry that's coming, and we're using a library, a React JSON schema form, a terribly named library that does literally describe what it's doing, to help make Mesh3's UI more dynamic in general, less fragile, and easier to sustain. So there's a lot of dynamic data that Mesh3 discovers about your environment, a lot of service meshes that Mesh3 manages. Those service meshes are their own projects themselves. They do all kinds of things, trying to code into Mesh3 all the things that all of those service meshes do. First of all, that's just hard to do in general one time. And then you try to keep pace with those service meshes as they augment their capability and make more and change and have bugs and whatever. Oh my gosh, like you're just perpetually churning, just trying to keep up with all those changes. So you really want to have a system that's much more dynamic. And so part of that dynamicism is to ensure that your UI is responsive to the capabilities of those service meshes. So there's some backend Golang that Mesh3 has that is dynamically figuring out the ability of each service mesh. It's dissecting that, understanding it, bringing it back, and makes that information available to the UI. Well, then the UI needs to know, okay, as someone goes to manage a given service mesh, what is appropriate to show the user? Can the user invoke this command, for example? Like, is that supported? And apparently it is. Or if I go to a different service mesh, this is validate service mesh configuration. If I go to Linkerd, okay, there's a validate service mesh configuration, great. Wait a second, there's only one choice. Hold on, if I go back, validate service mesh configuration, there's two choices. Okay, well, so that's an example of the fact that the UI needs to be dynamic, and like populating a drop down with one additional thing, or one additional option. Yeah, that's dynamic, but it's not a cool trick. I mean, it's not and it's not that we're trying to make cool tricks. We're trying to make software that is easy enough to sustain, to where Mesh3 can support 10 service meshes, and we could actually keep up with that. We collectively, I mean, all of us on the call. Well, that means things need to be really dynamic. And so that's being worked on by a collection of individuals. And Abhi Kumar had recently tried to enhance the user's ability to dynamically manipulate patterns. I've said the word dynamic like too many times. And so I wanted to show the work that he had done. And so his PR had been, the work that he had done is just in a PR that had just gotten merged of just before the call. And so since we don't have a lot of necessary, there's Barak, he's been doing well. Look at that guy, doing good. Guy, he stays up late too. He's committed. This is a good review. So like I figured like it was pretty cool what Abhi had done, and it's a dramatic enough shift in the user experience that it's important for all of us to reflect upon, because it'll be pervasive. Like we'll probably be doing more of that in the future. And so getting everyone's opinion now and kind of getting your mouse pointer on it now is good. So let me show all of you a couple of things and say, okay, well, the pull request that we want to look at is this one. So Abhi submitted it. I know that this might be kind of small on some of your screens, but the details aren't so important. Abhi submitted it, and Nitish has reviewed and has accepted. And so that was just a few moments ago or whatever. Less than an hour maybe. And so every time that a pull request is merged to Mesh3, there's a new release of Mesh3 made available within like 15, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. That release is called the edge release. And if you want to know about the details of how these two different release channels work, this is good doc. This is a good doc for you to go look at. There's a stable release channel and an edge release channel. So the edge release goes out, almost immediately, which means that if you're that you can go try out things fairly quickly. So if you're running a Meshery deployment, you can manage the details of the configuration of your Meshery deployment using the command line client. And so here's a command line client, Meshery CTL. In Meshery CTL, you manage Meshery's deployments because you might have multiple using contexts. So a Meshery deployment is the same thing as talking about a Meshery context. So here in my environment, if I do Meshery CTL system context view, it will tell me details of my current context. My current one is called Kate's. That's just the name I gave it. And it tells me details about that particular deployment. This deployment is subscribed to the edge release channel, subscribed to the latest version, whatever that latest version is, which should be Abhi's release. It should be the Kate. Okay, and so let me switch up a couple of things to make sure that we can get this demoed quickly. And that is right now my deployment, I'm deploying Meshery running on Kubernetes. And I'm running Kubernetes just as Anita and I were talking about. I'm running it on Docker desktop. I'm just running Kubernetes locally. And instead of deploying Meshery inside of Kubernetes, I'm going to deploy it in Docker for a couple of reasons that I'll explain another time. And so, but I need to change this up. So I can create a new context is one way of kind of getting to this quickly. Is I could create I guess I'll call it Docker. So create context, Docker, a context with that name already exists. Okay, fine. Docker 2. And so Docker context 2 has been added. So I will switch to that context. So I'll say context switch Docker 2, which moves me from my K8's context to this one. Great. I actually already had Meshery running. Okay. And so I actually need to stop Meshery running in that other context because otherwise I probably won't have, I'll blow past my system resources because I'm also running 3 service meshes at the same time. And so a little known secret, a little known tip, I suppose, is that if I want to stop a Meshery system from running, a deployment from running, we use this command, system stop. But if I execute it right now, I'm going to execute it on this context, the one that I'm currently in. It's like, well, no, that's not. I want to execute it on my K8's context. So I'll provide it this -c or -- context. That way it invokes the command against the other, temporarily I'm switching context. I'm sending it to that deployment. So when that's done and Meshery gets deleted from Kubernetes, which maybe we'll just go take a look at now. When that's done, we'll then deploy it in Docker. I don't know what happened. Okay, let me pause. Okay. So here's the pods that are running on my system, and Meshery is terminating. You can see that Istio, the Istio control plane is here, the Kuma control plane, the OSM control plane, which is not doing very well. And Meshery is all but gone. Great. So now that Meshery is gone and Meshery has stopped, let's go ahead and just start it. But this time it should be on Docker. And just to be double check, we'll just look at our context again. It's Docker 2. The platform is Docker. Great. And I'll be on stable latest. Oops, that's not what we want to do. So we want to switch our subscription channel to channel set or switch. There's two commands, set and switch. And we can talk about that later. Set edge latest. Let's just have a look again. We're on edge latest. Great. We'll start up a new mesh redeployment running in it. So technically, like it, running in our Docker instance, which is also running Kubernetes, Meshry will be deployed outside of Kubernetes in this case. And so the new images for the edge release are being pulled down, because since the last time that I've run the edge release, there've been new merges in each of these repos. So I'm hoping that this is beneficial and sort of educational along the way as we go to try to take a look at Avi's feature. So we've got about 10 minutes left, so just a time check. By the way, any of you here focused on DevOps or want to work on Docker files and Docker image challenges, the Meshry container image, it's gotten lazy, it's gotten a little round around the middle, needs to go on a diet. And the thing is it doesn't have enough willpower to diet by itself. So it's going to need someone to help it slim down. So if anybody wants to try their hand at that, just signal in Slack or here. But it really needs it. It's basically become obese at this point. Like it's getting bad. Which slows down demos like this. But that good. So hopefully people are getting a little more familiar with like contexts if you haven't spent a lot of time with them. There's an FAQ on contexts and how they work or what they're about, things that you can do with them. And I believe it's in the using Meshry CTL. Yeah, there's an FAQ here. What are the difference between contexts? Why are they necessary? What's current content? You know, what's a mesh config? Those are interesting things. Okay, looks like our system is ready because it automatically brings up my browser. So we'll go sign in to the Meshry remote provider. And the area where Abhishek Kumar had made some enhancements is in this configuration area for patterns, I believe. Yeah. And so a moment ago when we had this UI up, I'll make it a little bit bigger as well. We were not seeing this button. By the way, SVGs don't always scale in Safari. And I guess we're not allowing these buttons to scale. So that's maybe not great because these should be a little bit larger. Anywho, I've never clicked this button before. Oh, okay. Wait, let's go back. Okay, what are we dealing with here? We've got a pattern. What the heck is a pattern? Well, we don't have enough time to describe that, so let's not. But let's just suffice to say it's YAML, like a YAML file. Okay. If I hover here, do I get a tooltip telling me what this is going to do? I don't know. It looks like a set of check marks. What about this one? Shoot, I don't know. Looks like a play button. Okay, that's to upload a path. Huh. Well, I wish it would tell me what's going on. Hopefully it doesn't blow up the system. Okay, it didn't. But so anyway, that's not just for the comedic, that's not just for me to be stupid. It's to speak out loud as a user and try to figure out what's going on. So there's opportunities galore. If someone wants to go add some tooltips, that would be lovely. Okay, so we're dealing with this YAML file, I suppose. Edit pattern configuration of this. Okay, I know I'm editing. Okay, so I'm editing. That's what that, okay. It was an edit button then. Oh yeah. Ooh, an application on an application. That sounds naughty. Got lots of, okay. Okay, this is my YAML. This is what I had uploaded. This is my representation of the book info application running on, well, actually it's just book info. I don't think it describes what service mesh to run. Oh, nope, it does. It's running on Istio. Okay. I can save my pattern. I can delete it. Ooh, these are pretty small compared to these up here. Now, oh, 19 replicas. Whoa. 40. Nothing. Okay, anyway, we don't have to sit here and listen to me do this stuff. Point is, he'd made something pretty fantastic. Like we previously and currently in the stable release, all we let people do is manipulate YAML in a UI. It's like, well, that's what VS Code is for. It's like, okay. Can't we give them something that's, and so give them something that's easier to configure their service mesh, to configure their applications. And so that's what Abhi is working on here. And he's showing that you can build that out visually. You can add additional containers into your application, assign them ports and things. This is helpful. Better than having to edit YAML, I get to see what's going on. I can also see what's going on over here as well. Okay, good. Anyway, it was a big jump. It was worth taking a look at. I think this will go out into a stable release probably soon. It needs a heck of a lot of cleanup, which again is an invitation for anyone to come help. So there's a lot to be done in Golang, in React.js. There's a lot to be done in the community. And since I'm monologuing everyone, and we have one last topic on Lfx internships, Vindu, is that our last topic? Or?
We have also a couple of topics from Dhruv and Barik.
Oh, then we shouldn't like. Then I can point people to info about Lfx internships another time. I'll send some info in Slack or.
Yep. Dhruv, would you like to go next?
I would like to, but my Kubernetes cluster is not working properly, so I wouldn't be able to demo it. It was the same thing which we demoed in the suite's development call, where we changed the meshing settings altogether. And yeah, that was it. I just wanted to debrief someone who was not present in that particular call. Let me see if I can delete my cluster and start it once again. Until then, Parik, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I might be a little brief, so you can. Yeah, it's very brief for my case. All right. Yeah. So what I've been working on is about the handling error message in mesh map particularly. So basically, there's two parts of it. So the first one is the part that if we cannot find the GraphQL plugin inside the specified directory, then it will show the appropriate message that we should know. Basically, we should understand. And then the second part is about whether the build mesh map version is not compatible with the build meshery version. Yep. So I'll show you the second one first because it's already there. So if I load the mesh map, and then it will show us the enqueue bar, which is happening on the right bottom. So measures and mesh map version aren't matching. So you can see the actual version of each of the applications. So measure is 0.5.45, and then the mesh map or extension is 0.5.47. So this is only from my local, because I haven't updated my, I haven't pulled my latest measure branch basically. Yeah, so this is what happens. So this one, and then if we look over into the where GraphQL plugin is, let me give me some seconds. Give me a while. All right.
Yeah.
So basically, we have the GraphQL plugin here. If we delete it, and then we load again the page. It will show that, yeah, it will show an error message. You cannot find appropriate plugin in your directory. Could you please try installing mesh map again? Yep. So that's what I've been doing. Yeah. Moving on to draft.
I like the new error messages one.
Oh man, I missed it. Wait, what was it? He did. He didn't put anything sarcastic like with the word mesh in it, did he? There's no way. Okay.
Nope. I think you should have.
Cool. By the way, did anyone, Barak, I was kind of surprised to see that the two versions were different. Like there was a measure version and then there was an extensions version that was different. Did anyone offer up an explanation as to how that might have been the case? Is that just because you were running your build locally and,
Yep, that's, I think this is, this mostly will happen when we're developing on local. If it's on release, then I don't think that this will happen. So that's why I just put it as a NQ bar, just to show that the developer that this is, that your mesh map or your measure is not updated to the latest version, latest branch basically. Yeah.
Got you. Okay.
Okay. So as for my and Nitish's changes, of course, we changed how this to, first of all, the NATS chip was not there and the mesh sync chip was there, but it did the same thing which operated it. But now we have updated them to individually, one will redeploy mesh sync if it is already not deployed, and the second one will reconnect with the NATS server itself, because this were the main breaking points which people had while they were connecting to NATS. So that, I think, is a good brief of what was going on, and explained it in detail in last week's class, so I don't want to take a lot of time. And one more thing, we also added one more state called connected. Like there's now disabled, active, and connected. Active means it's deployed, and connected means that Meshi server is connected to the NAT server as a client. So that's a small brief update. And even though it's gonna say we are past 2 minutes as usual now. Okay, bad joke, I guess.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny because I was just going to make a comment about the potential like inconsistency of how we have active with the capital letter and then we have connected it,
Okay,
and,
yeah.
but at the same time, you were also making a joke about us being consistent in how we spill over time. So there's always so much to share and show. So I suppose we are This is really, yeah.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, just really helpful, really an important area. If this isn't working, then mesh sync isn't working. So then the heart of Meshry is, not connected. It's not good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so note taken, connected should be in the first letter should be capital, and also the NATS logo should be changed. I know you said that before. So yeah, keep that in mind.
That's good.
Any other comments to Dhruv? Or any other topics left to discuss today? So as Lee mentioned, we'll send out some links for the Lfx internships on Slack. So if you have questions on the Lfx internship, you can ask them in Slack as well. There are a couple of projects as Lee mentioned, so we can send out these links to chat as well. Ali, like there is a question in chat.
Which project is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Aman. Aman. There is no. It is a new. You're talking about the Playground initiative, which is net new, like ground zero, which is either super exciting or really scary. It depends. But just to actually, I'll speak to it for just a moment because I think it's probably of interest to all of you. And some, it's not. There are any number of people that would need to come to bear on this particular project. This is the notion that I don't know if you know this, but some of you actually, some of you are just coming to Docker for the first time. And it's entirely natural. We were just talking with meshmate Anita, and she's installing Docker on her machine and getting familiar. And now Docker's been here for 8.5 years or so, but it didn't make sense that Anita to get into Docker until now. And so now she is. And my point of using that example is to say that service meshes are even further down the cloud native trail. I would characterize service mesh as like the third significant step that an organization takes in their cloud native journey. That's debatable. It depends on how you want to look at it. But point is, service meshes aren't at the start. They're along your path somewhere, which means that it'll take even longer for you to get to them, which means that even though they've been here, it depends on how you want to measure, between 4.5 years or so, people are going to be coming to them for the first time for a long time, which means that providing people learning resources about how they work is a wise investment. So providing the world with the service mesh playground, very wise and something that stands to be referenced for all time. Well, at least for the next decade, for a long time. How many of you have used playwithdocker.com or playwithkubernetes.com? I'm probably saying the URL not exactly right, but there's two of them. And we actually, Meshry was born in playwithkates.com or Play with Kubernetes. We used to give workshops on service meshes. We would run Meshry and run service meshes in these environments. And the people that created this actually good friends of mine. So they would give us, we would fork it and do different things. But point is, I bring this up because what we're looking to create isn't far removed from what you see there, playwithkates.com. So if there's a place that people can come and we're running a hosted instance of Meshry, if Meshry is a multi-tenant capability, or maybe if Meshry isn't a multi-tenant capability, that there's either orchestration scripts to be written to spin up sandbox environments for people to play with Meshry and therefore play with through Meshry, play with any service mesh, play with sample applications, play with sample patterns, sample filters, learn, break things, and then get a new environment. That's actually not dissimilar from what people are able to do today with the interactive labs that are published at layer5.io/lab. Yeah, here. They're also published in the Google and Meshery docs. So these are nice environments. A lot of you are familiar with Catacoda, and these environments run in Catacoda, and we have open issues for new scenarios to be created. So if you're looking to, so that's a great place for people to jump in and contribute. There's a repo out there that has the markdown basically that drives those labs. Well, so why would we create a different playground if we already have interactive labs for people to go run Meshery and try out things? Well, I don't want to spoil the surprise necessarily, or it's because most people that are running a mesh today, most of the world is not running a mesh just by numbers, but they will, or like, you know, it'll take time. Most who are running a mesh today are using the tried and true pieces of functionality, stuff that they can grok and can begin to use, and that's totally natural. The longer that they're here and the more of their capabilities that are espoused and tooling provided about them, the more that people might realize they can write their applications differently. There's a lot of intelligence that can be built into the network to run business logic, to dynamically cache certain types of images or certain types of content, or to strip out certain CSS, or to condense it, or there's actually, there's a collection of about 30, not patterns. I think some of you thought I was going to say patterns. There's a collection of 30 page speed filters that are being written to be Envoy compatible that Meshery can dynamically load to help. Like there's a myriad of things that people have yet to experience with the mesh. One of those is if you ever used Full Story, most of you are wondering what I'm talking about. You'd have to go to fullstory.com and look at the fact that they just got 100 million in a Series D because they've got a popular project that's focused on product managers. What does this have to do with the service mesh? Fullstory.com lets you track rage clicks, lets a product manager of a SaaS offering, like of a mobile offering like this, watch and track where people are clicking on their mobile phone and understand how they're shopping and where they stop shopping and what stops them from making that purchase and where they're rage clicking, trying to figure out why this button thing doesn't work, that isn't a button, and all that. And well, guess what? All of that transaction goes across the network. The network can see all of that stuff too. So I'm hoping that I've got the dots close enough that some of you might be able to connect the dots between what I'm trying to say is that if there's okay, what does that have to do with the service mesh playground? Is that the playground in Catacoda isn't going to be powerful enough to show people what they can really do with the mesh, or what they can even more do with the mesh, which is deliver a full story from a mesh. No front-end code change needed, no back-end code change needed either. Just in the presence of a mesh, you can bring this type of capability. And so what we'd want to do with the service mesh playground is when people go in, is when they're in the playground and they're turning on something like traffic, they're canarying or doing a traffic split or something like that, that they could actually manipulate their own experience, the experience that they're having in the UI when they go there and they're seeing, you know, the service mesh playground, and it has, you know, green in the background, maybe just because that's how it was. Maybe they want to update the service mesh configuration in the playground that they're using to actually change the experience they're actually having with the thing. They can do that because their packets are transiting the network as well. They can be intercepted, and they can, so in real time, they can manipulate and interfere with their own experience. So there's some stuff that there's this and a few other things that the world hasn't seen just yet that for my part, I'd like for them to see from here. Like, so we can show people some new stuff. So that's the reason why the Service Mesh Playground is needed, and not just Catacoda Labs. So that's one of the projects. There's other LFX projects out there. This isn't a small one. Also, I'll say this, if Aman is still on, yeah, and others, is to be forthright and to be frank, like if you read the FAQs on the Layer5 IO programs page, it will say things like internships are earned, not earned based on, or I'm sorry, internships are awarded based on having been earned and proven that you're interested in the tech, you're aligned with the community, you're nice to other contributors, you take cues from maintainers, many of which were on the call, that there are Meshry is the most popular LFX program out there. And that's because of the other people that are sitting around you, because they take time to teach others and to engage and to create something that's really cool. And you know, for those of you who get to have long careers, you know, hopefully eventually you'll come to understand that as you go to get promoted within your career path, that promotions aren't given in advance of, or they shouldn't be. In most well-run environments, they're not given in advance of what you might aspire to do. Well, you're a software engineer, you'd like to be a manager. Okay, let's make you a manager and see if it works. No, you need to be managing people and showing that you can lead people. And then you're already doing it, so we'll just recognize you with the promotion for what you're already doing. It's the same thing here. Like, the internship's a really serious thing here. The people that you're looking at, there's a number of interns that are on the call now. They're creating some stuff that scared the crap out of the Kong CTO yesterday morning. So much that he had to go out and start tweeting about some advanced capabilities that he otherwise wasn't going to show off, but he saw them being showed off by some of the interns here. And I don't know if he changed his shorts afterwards, but he sure did change his tweets. So anyway, that's how seriously we take them. And I'm super pumped that people are here interested in them, and I want you all to have them. There are basically more internships to give out than there are people ready to pick them up. That doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be the world's best coder. That's not necessarily the measure of how these are awarded to people. It's about, well, you know what, I won't go read the FAQs, go talk to Piyush, go talk to Dhruv, go talk to, there's a list of people who've interned. You go talk to Utkarsh, go talk to Navendu. But yeah, no, I hope that helps some. The specifics of the projects almost matter less. I know that doesn't seem intuitive. It's more about yeah.
And also, is there any template for the LFX proposal or any points to follow on that?
I've never read them. No, it's like, I know Aman, it's different. It's totally, it is not the Thanos project, or it is not the, I know this sounds like almost off-putting potentially, and I hope that it isn't, but yeah, I don't know. Or I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how else to respond to it other than just like, it doesn't, I don't care about it. For my part, then I'm not the only one mentoring, but for my part, I don't read it's got nothing to do with what people write into the proposal. I know that sounds weird. So Aman, like to be forthright again with all of you, like the internships that are available here, they're going to go to those that have been here working their butts off and are like clearly here to build themselves and build others. And if you're here in another 3 months, having done that, then I guarantee you'll get, you would get one then. And I'm just trying to be as forthright as possible. Like, I really hope that you are, and you do. But it's not just you. I mean, for anyone else who's just joined, is like the trial period for getting the internship started 3 months ago. So the next one for next quarter starts now. So and still stick around, get in, and like dig in, and let's start that project now if that's what we want to do. So think on that. Think on that. It's not for everybody. But yeah. So but apply. Get in there, and even when it is time for whomever you are to have the internship, I'm still not going to read the proposal. It's got nothing to do with that. I know, again, weird. And we are recording this. Will go on YouTube. You guys can show it to other people and tell them about how weird this is. If you want to, it's fine. So thanks for asking the question. So I hope that helps people. I harangued you all in this, but super stoked that that you all are here. Ashish Tiwari is an individual that's kind of like a good example of someone he's been rolling up his sleeves for a while. He's actually working on an important piece that I keep kind of asking people about, like where's his work at? Not that he's moving slowly, it's just that his work is quite important. You go ask him about what he's been doing. Yeah. Thanks, I'll shut up. I called out, by the way, sorry, I called out Ashish just because I looked over and saw him in the list of, and it is true the things that I said, but that doesn't mean that others haven't been doing the same thing. So I didn't. Yeah, thanks, Nivedi.
Yep. Thanks, Lee, for answering that question. Like I believe it helped a lot of people as well. So we are way out of time today, but I guess it was really helpful for most of us here. Thank you everyone for joining this call, and we'll see you next week in the other meetings. Bye. Have a great weekend.
Okay, bye guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow.
Even though did say it at the last.